Thumbs up.
Your Honor, how are you doing? Pretty good.
All right,
Nice to
we're on.
see you. Are you good?
Okay.
Welcome back. Where was I?
Good morning. Good morning. It's Monday, July 8th, 2024, 9 a.m. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. First item on the agenda is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented. Second.
I have a motion by Scott and a second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 3 is discussion possible action to approve claims dated July 8th, 2024 in the amount of $2,886,590.85.
I would move as to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Scott, second by Danny. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item 4 is discussion of possible action to approve resolution 0708-2401, establishing compensation for precinct election officials with County Auditor Tybee Vanderland. Morning,
Okay,
Tybee.
good morning. This resolution mirrors what you passed last year for precinct election official pay for election day work as well as their training. The final statement on there about paying them $25 if they also work election day or for one of the boards, I did add and can be discussed. I feel like it's maybe our call whether to pay them for training, if then they cancel and put us in a position where we have to fill their spot at the last minute. If it's medical, I certainly would be understanding. But we invest in them and they invest their time, I know, but we want the commitment from them to attend training and then also follow through with election day work.
So that's the only thing that changed, was that $25?
Yeah, it just has the word if working election.
That makes sense.
I will move.
I have a
Second.
motion by Danny and a second by Kurt. This is a roll call vote. Any further discussion?
No.
Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt?
Aye.
Okay, 5A is discussion and action to accept the following reports. County recorded report of fees collected for the quarter ending June 30, 2024 in the amount of $60,991.74.
I move to approve.
Motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item B, County Auditor's Report of fees collected for the quarter ending June 30th, 2024 in the amount of $5,816.84.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Danny. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item C is Muscatine County Sheriff's Office Civil Department's report of fees collected for the quarter ending June 30, 2024 in the amount of $26,009.46.
I move to approve.
Motion
Second.
by Kurt, second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. County Treasurer's report of fees collected for the quarter ending June 30, 2024 in the amount of $824,848.24.
I'll move.
A motion by Danny,
Second?
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Item 6, discussion possible action to approve the minutes of the July 1, 2024 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Motion by Kurt,
I'll second.
second by Danny. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Okay, motion carries. Correspondence, Scott?
I had nothing to note on correspondence.
Okay. I had a call from Charles Lorenzen about a lost and found item. I've sent it to the auditor. I'm waiting to get back to Charles till we figure out, it's a little bit of a question whether we have anything or not. but I will respond to him when we figure that out. The other thing is I sent to everyone, I've got a number of communications on the port initiative. Sounds like Clinton County is gonna go ahead with taking action today. So I just forwarded 3 or 4 emails this weekend, just different stuff. I don't know if I did, Jim, were you in those loops?
Not this weekend, but I brought it with me today to talk about during the public employee comment section.
Okay, and I'll send you, there was some more back and forth between Sinkler and Irwin, and I'll forward those to you. I never thought, I sent them to Board of Supervisors, so I assume you get those, right, Nancy?
Yep.
But I'll make sure, Jim, I'll make sure you get those. And that was all I had.
That's what
Danny?
that's that email exchange between Jim Irwin, and Bob Sinkler and you, the ones you forwarded, all I had.
Same.
Okay. How about committee reports, Kurt?
I had none, but just a reminder, the Muscatine County Fair is coming up on the 17th to the 21st, so just keep that in your mind.
I had the housing council on, 7/3.
The one, I was gone last week, so on the 26th, I had the Bi-State Commission. And Scott?
He was at the housing
I had
council.
no committees. Is the, just Kurt for clarification, is the parade for the fair parade on the 14th then?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I thought
2
so.
o'clock, I think it starts.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
Shouldn't be hot at all.
No, heaven's sakes, middle of January, or July, we'll do just fine.
Okay, items with the administration office. Item number 9A is discussion of possible action direction regarding payment of the second half of the 23-24 allocation of $5,000 to GMCCI and the second half of the 23-24 of $82.50 to the West Liberty Library.
On that West Liberty Library, when did they submit their paperwork?
July 1st.
So it was after the
After
June
the-
30th? In regard to that one, the way our past document read, we corrected that document last week to be like June 10th, I think it was. The way it read to me, and maybe Jim, you can give your opinion, I think it leaves some speculation on, when a payment could be significantly turned in before that June 30th deadline.
Yeah, I didn't look at it specifically, but I didn't believe it called out a deadline. It just said reasonable time frame or sufficient time maybe is what I understood it to say. So setting a deadline as you've done now is probably a good idea, but otherwise I'm not sure. I mean, in fairness to the administration, past practices would have been of benefit to know, but with things changing and people changing, and could probably be a little clearer.
Yeah, that's, as I look at it, I did look at the letter and we weren't crystal clear on the date. We did say time and, many people probably don't understand our pay cycles, that we pay every 2 weeks and you gotta process the claims, and so that could cause confusion. So I think in the future, I don't know, are we gonna put, June 10th, or are we gonna put something like June 1st? I mean, I don't know.
I think it was,
I think June 10th would be sufficient.
yeah, I think the document was approved last week when you was gone.
Oh,
I think it
okay,
was already
perfect.
for June 10th, a new
Okay.
document going forward.
Perfect. And so on the 2 in question, so the one we had was a 7-1, which is clearly
That's past the 30th.
clearly past the 30th. And the other one, we did get, GMCCI had communicated with us anywhere from sometime the week, I don't know, what week, I'm losing track.
I think it
of
was the
days.
22nd when they actually submitted that document, or wasn't it?
It was
Or
like-
notified us.
21st.
Yeah, the 21st.
I think I'd like to make a motion that we pay GMCCI their 5,000, but West Liberty Library being clearly past the 30th, I would only support the chamber getting the $5,000. With the new document going forward, there's a clear date put in place, so I don't think we should have this problem going forward. If you don't if you're after the date, you don't get it.
Yep.
I have a question. What does this do as far as different organizations that have been late in previous timeframes, previous years. I don't know if other organizations will have claims from previous years, if,
I can't speak long-term on that, but I did speak to Kayla, like last year, the, West Liberty, We Lead was late, but that was after the June 30th deadline.
I believe so, yes.
So I don't know if there's others
I don't
in
either.
past years that may be able to come back. I can't speak for that, but
what kind of cost, maybe you can help me with this. What kind of cost will the county have in regard to the work, the labor involved in going back and collecting whatever needs to be collected and paying this, how much money is it, $5,000 to GMCCI? I'm just kinda curious.
Yeah, so if we do an amendment outside of our regular amendment, which would be in March, so 8 months away, publication for that alone is hitting $700. So I would say easily, if you add staff time, you're at least looking at $1,000 if we do a special amendment for this and don't wait until March.
Which is how it would be done.
More than likely.
something I was thinking about, Scott, or the rest of the board, later on in the agenda 9F, we have to reallocate funds for the LATCF, for the Muscatine Legal Services. That's $16,250, I think it is. I thought maybe in this circumstance, we could maybe use the 5,000 out of that, because we have to reallocate it by,
Either action requires a budget amendment, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Doesn't,
Okay.
it really is irrelevant where the source of funds is. It's a use of funds and it's in a different fiscal year, so we have to do a budget amendment either way.
Right.
Okay. Okay, other discussion? So I have a motion on the floor by Danny to pay, it was 5,000 to do the 5,000 to GMCCI and, decline the 8250 to to the West Liberty Library. I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So it's a hung vote, 2-2. Okay,
Could I just have
Good.
one question?
Yep.
If that's okay. So if it June 10th, what about the first half? When should that be due?
That can be due anytime from October to June 10th.
Is there a cutoff date for, well, I meant like I guess this is the second half that we're talking about, right? What about the first half? Is there a deadline for getting that first half in then?
It could be June 10th, so if anywhere between October.
So both of them could be
yeah,
sent in?
As long as you have both those claims in by June 10th.
because we're just up
Oh.
against our fiscal year
You
is all
just
we're
can't
trying.
submit the second one until after April.
Okay, so both of them could be signed and brought in before June 10th.
But
Yes,
after
but
April,
the second
but the
half
first can't,
be before April,
Okay, great.
and that has to do with taxes and making sure we have the funds.
Okay, thank you.
because tax payments are, we get them in
September.
September and March. Okay. On to the next item is the item B, discussion of possible action to approve one appointment to the Muscatine County Veteran Affairs Commission to fill a vacancy for a term ending June 30th, 2025, and one appointment to a full 3-year term ending June 30, 2027. And we all had in our packet a nice recap from Eric Sanders. Kind of a tough one here today, so I'll listen to your thoughts. We have 8 very qualified applicants for that. We have two openings. I think Eric's recommendation is that per code, we try to get representative of each period. So we probably, in my mind, we have Vietnam, Korean, and Gulf War all represented here in the applicants, and which are, we have 1 Gulf War on, so really the ones were, or 2 Gulf. Actually, what we're missing is Vietnam and Korean War, so I would think that we ought to consider trying to pick an applicant between one of those conflicts. And with that,
They were all good candidates. You know.
so we're looking for two,
Korean,
correct?
when there was only one.
Two.
Right.
Is there two?
Two.
No, there's two openings.
Two open.
You're having two different
there's
conversations.
two.
There's two openings. There's one Korean War
Yeah.
veteran
and then the
listed
Vietnam
on here,
era.
yeah.
Correct, yeah. But I think there was only, applicant-wise, there was only one Korean.
Only one
War
from the
at-
Korean.
era.
Yeah.
Lindell, Richard Lindell. And then we had several from the Vietnam
Several
era.
from the Vietnam, yes.
Which, a couple of them, Keith Hornsby kind of stood out to me on his application, just by the way it read. I mean, I don't know any of these fellows. I appreciate they all applied. Just my opinion, I guess.
Make a motion on those two?
I guess so. I can make that motion that, we have to do them separately.
I don't believe we would.
No, you can do them separately. You just need to
That,
designate which one you're.
Well, I'll go ahead and nominate, Keith Hornsby and Richard Lindell then.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Kurt and a second by Danny. Nominate Keith Ormsby and Richard Lindell. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? I'd like to thank everyone that put in their application for their willingness to serve, and it's really good to have a lot of really highly qualified applicants for a role like this, because it's very important.
I do have a question. It's two different terms. One's to fill a vacancy
Oh.
and one's for a full 3-year term.
I'm gonna assume they appointed him in the
In that
order that they were listed on the agenda.
Okay.
So Ormsby would be the full term
I'm okay.
and Lindell would be the partial term.
Yep. Okay, item C, discussion of possible action to reappoint Tony Bruce to the benefited fire district number 6 for a 3-year term ending June 30, 2027. This is also subject to approval by the Scott County Board of Supervisors.
I'll move.
I have a motion by Danny,
I'll second.
second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item D, discussion of possible action authorizing chair to execute the following: July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 agreement regarding Muscatine County Engineers Office Secondary Road Unit between the Muscatine County Chauffeurs and Teamsters and Helpers, Local Union 238.
You want me to address this, Nate?
Sure.
We brought the secondary roads, corrections, and jail support staff to the board today. I think we have a signed agreement for the jail support staff. We've been given the nod on, we would have an agreement with secondary roads and corrections. We don't have that document yet, but we wanted to get all three on the agenda today to have the board review and approve, so that when those documents come in, we can take immediate action for the benefit of payroll and health insurance and those things that are going to be impacted retro back to July 1. Is that a fair statement, Nancy?
Yep.
All right,
I'll move.
so I have a motion by Danny,
Second.
second by Kurt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Number two is July 21 through June 25 agreement regarding Muscatine County Sheriff's Office Correction Officers Unit between Muscatine County and Chauffeurs, Teamsters, and Helpers Local Unit 238.
I will move.
I have a motion by Danny,
I'll second.
second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 3, July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025 agreement regarding the Muscatine County Sheriff's Office Jail Support Unit between Muscatine County and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Iowa Council.
So moved.
A motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item E is review the 23-24 year-end fund balances.
Good morning.
Morning.
So you should have in your packets the budget versus actual fund balance detail sheet. The first column on there is the budget column, which shows what we estimated the fund balances to be. Then that next column is gonna show you what they actually were. And then you have whether they were over or under what we had estimated them to be. Before we move on to the transfers, does anybody have any questions on those overages? No? Okay, so our primary focus is on the general basic fund, since that's our main operating fund. And the goal is to hold that fund balance to around 35% and transfer the overages to other funds. So this year's overage is 1.85 million. And we typically transfer that to either capital projects, building maintenance, or debt repayment. So if you look down at items to consider, item number 3 is gonna show you what our debt balances are. And when those being fairly larger balances and mostly lower interest rates, we're probably not gonna be looking at paying those off anytime soon, so I wouldn't recommend transferring to the debt repayment fund. But if you look at items 1 and 2, the capital projects fund, we did a facilities master plan update, and so there's several capital projects that could be coming down the pipeline. I would recommend making the transfer to the capital projects fund, because it's easy to transfer that money out of the capital projects fund elsewhere if you decide that it's needed in other funds. So you wouldn't have to decide what capital projects to put this to, you just need to decide where you want to transfer that 1.85.
We know approximately what the, fair amount of this was interest income coming out of the treasurer's office of the 1.8 million. Do we have any idea how much, what kind of rate she's been able to get on the?
I'm not sure what the rates are,
CDs.
but you're right that it is mostly interest and then the federal inmate revenue too.
Yeah, so I would say, do you know what the breakdown between those are?
I don't, I could get that for you, but I don't.
I
off
think
the
she
top of my
budgeted
head.
about 400,000, and it looks like, this quarter was 8. So, I mean, so it's been, I'm gonna guess the bulk of that was interest income,
Right,
which is always a slippery slope, so for, right now, interest, for good or bad, the interest income is very healthy, but we have many years that I was on this board where we got next to no interest income off tax revenue, so, view that as a bonus, that will go away. Any comments about that? So basically, if we transfer that 1.8 million to the capital projects fund, that gives us more flexibility and, basically should offset any future bonding needs for those kinds of items.
right, right.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to move that?
Yep, to approve the recommendation.
I'll make a motion to move that 1.8 million from general basic to capital.
So I have a motion by Danny,
I'll second.
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you. I'll be up here for the next one too.
Yep, okay, so the next one is discussion of possible action to reallocate LATCF funds.
Yeah, so you guys had allocated $20,000 as a match to fundraising for Muscatine Legal Services. They were only able to raise $3,500, so now you have $16,500 to reallocate to another project. These do follow the same guidelines, time-wise, as the ARPA funds. So you'll need to get these obligated before the end of this year. I would recommend that you obligate it towards the courthouse roof project to keep it in line, and then you can free up capital project dollars again that have more flexibility, that don't have time restrictions.
Yeah, because the clock is ticking on allocating all these funds. We have,
Right.
really, they have to be allocated by October, right?
By December.
By December?
By December, and that means you need to have a contract signed for the project.
You have to have a contract signed by then, which is probably getting close to time. So I think that's probably a good recommendation from my mind.
You want a motion?
Yep.
motion to move the 16,500 from the LATCF funds to capital project.
So I have a motion by Danny,
Second?
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? Moving that, if, as long as we designate it to the roof replacement project, that'll, meet the time commitments and the requirements of the bond, or the.
It will, yes, since we already have a contract signed, and we'll bring resolutions back next week for you to approve moving these funds.
Okay. Okay, so any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Item 10 is receive information from county employees. Any county employees wishing to address the board?
Just a couple of things. I think, Jeff, you've touched on one of them. I brought the Port Authority information with me today. They've got a resolution. I know they came and did a presentation a couple of Monday nights ago, I think, here in town with maybe, I know, Jeff, you attended, and maybe
There was a call. I don't know if anybody else, were you on that, Danny? Yeah, I don't know if any of our board members were able to attend that, so,
Yeah, I didn't know if you did or not. Oh, you didn't?
no.
Oh, okay, I thought maybe you had. I guess my thinking is, I mean, the resolution is that they've proposed is pretty standard. I've always been a proponent that they come make a presentation to the board, because I think there's some value to it. You know, it's sold as a no cost to the county sort of a thing, but the county is gonna have to assign a director to the board to serve on it, and then I'm not sure in the future, you know, I think the thought is that the funds are gonna be grants or otherwise coming from the federal government, but inevitably there'll be cost and impact associated with that I just wanna understand who's gonna provide and who's gonna pay for it, and how that payment mechanism is gonna work. And so it's not a criticism of the project, it's just for me, help me to understand a little bit better of what the first hurdle seems relatively easy, but what are the hurdles after that that we need to be considering when we do this sort of a thing? And I'm not sure what local interest, if anybody's reached out to you, Jeff, or locally to
Yeah, we've
support
had,
it.
you know, and the mayor's here, so he can, put his chamber hat on and mix that, but Grain Processing Corporation, Kent Corporation has been interested. You know, they had a large initiative around a port a number of years ago. MPW has been involved in all these conversations, and they're interested. And I think the thing that, I asked that $10 million question about money. I've asked Colonel Sinkler every time we've been on a phone, I think, and you know, the nearest answer I get out of that is that, and if you look at his organization provides consulting services to entities like this. And so I think the notion is, if you look at other entities he's helped with this, they go out and seek grants, and if they're successful, they get a consulting arrangement, and that's how they get compensated. And I think that's fair, you know, it's kind of like a finder's fee for the money. They have been quite successful on the Illinois waterways. I know there was the Port of Blencoe, which he mentions, which is on the Missouri.
Yes.
And I don't know who was instrumental in getting that, but they got like a $10 million. I know we did have, had some conversation locally about what some of these funds can be used for and how they can be used. So they believe they could help some of our local fleets with upgrades of their equipment, some of that help move goods in our river area. I think the bottom line is, it's kind of like when we did this initiative back in, initially was maybe 18, I don't remember, 17, 18, somewhere around there. Today, if you look at the map of port activity in the US, the Midwest was a big black hole. And we have about 110 million metric tons of grain that transports out of this area. And, you know,
I think it all gets credited to St. Louis
it
and
all gets credited
Minneapolis.
to St. Louis, and that's where the funds go. And so I think this is an opportunity. In my the last call I had, when I heard Colonel Sinkler say, he said, and really, you know, Illinois, some of the Illinois counties have been interested in participating, but he said really Iowa is the golden egg. he said, this is where all the volume is coming out of Iowa. So it just makes sense to me if we can get some infrastructure investment. And I was under the impression it was all only, you know, roads, bridges, dock work, things like that, but there's also environmental, dollars
I
that you
think
can
there's
get.
quite a few different
Yeah, there's-
avenues for grants, and I was thinking if we do get this set up, we've got that joint grant writer that could look for opportunities to get funds heading this way if we
Yeah.
become. So I think part of your question was who would take care of the grant process, right?
Yeah, just inevitably there's cost, so just understanding who's gonna pay the cost, how that work's gonna be done, and to me, if the consulting arrangement is as Jeff has described, just people know what it is up front, so there's nobody at the back end of it who's dissatisfied with that approach.
Yeah, one of the initial conversations I had with the group was under Iowa 28J, I believe is the code section that governs this. There was probably a report that would need to be filled out with Iowa Finance Authority annually. And that was my concern, you know, who does that and what, and, you know, they've indicated that they would do that report at least for no cost, and, you know, and I think I always like to go into things with eyes wide open that, you know, at some point, if it becomes a significant enough effort, nothing will be done for no cost, because there's a cost to doing everything. And I think we just have to pay attention and watch it, and at this point, it looks to me like a pretty easy decision, is really, I see a lot of upsides, I don't see a lot of downsides, but I think we just have to be careful and watch.
Yeah, Louisa, my understanding, was not interested. I see they're still in communications, but their county attorney advised me their board was not interested. To answer your question about Blenco, that's north of Harrison County on the west side of the state. A new co-op was the elevator that was, I think, a strategic partner in getting that done, because they want to be able to deliver grain out of that side of the state, because they operate basically in northwest and north central. Northwest, central, and central Iowa, both north and southeast, west. So they're a pretty big elevator in the western part of the state.
Yeah.
So they were kind of the motivator. Maybe it's GPC here, maybe it's a combination of people. But I just didn't want it to be lingering. If there's anything you wanted me to do, the resolution in my mind is acceptable. It's just a matter of whether we try to partner with Scott and Clinton, or how that's done.
Yeah, I think that in conversations I'd had, you would need to get like 3 counties to be and which ones, I don't think it makes any difference. It sounds like Clinton is gonna move forward. I think I'm gonna recommend that we put it onto an agenda to move forward on the resolution, unless anybody has great reservations. I've kinda looked at this, and we've been on and off for quite some time on it, and it seems to be, in Scott County is on the fence still, I would say, is the best I could see. But I think Jackson County, you know, originally was saying they weren't interested, but then, there was I don't know what they have up there, they have some kind of an environmental or area that would be, there's grant dollars available for that if they were a part of this, so I think they may gain interest, so.
If I read through that correctly, it requires a board, and we'd have to probably eventually appoint a board member, but it sounds like they didn't meet often, there's not a lot of action items.
Yeah,
But it is a requirement, I believe.
well, we'd have to create up bylaws and all that kind of stuff.
Which is all part of the, who's gonna do that, what's all that gonna look
And
like?
I think Clinton County has said that their county attorney is gonna take that initiative.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that, so.
I think that's what, I'll send you those notes from Jim, I think that's what Jim said, I think they directed their county attorney to go ahead and do that, and talked with him, and he's been on a couple of the conference calls I was on that I saw where it seems like he's engaged and
Yeah,
interested.
he's reached out to my office directly and was indicating support, so I've also talked to Scott County,
Yeah.
the assistant county attorney up there would be tasked with looking at the agreement. I think they were sort of interested in the presentation, so that was my understanding.
Okay.
And then Jackson had gone with Dubuque originally when Dubuque took a presentation on it earlier, so I think Dubuque's already signed off. I'm not sure about Jackson County.
Okay.
With another county maybe leading the charge on that, it doesn't jeopardize any of the other counties that join with.
Theoretically, you're gonna get money, and then there may be some discussion about which county, where the port would be located. And that would be, you know, I don't know that you're gonna get, I'm not familiar with the process, but getting ports funded in all three counties to me would be, it would sound unusual, but I'm not gonna tell you it's not possible. And so,
Yeah, it really is, it's kind of the weird thing about this is it's a port, but it's not, it's really just it's just more of a virtual port.
Yeah, the way I understand, there may not be a physical port in the end, there could be, but to be declared the port, it opens you up for the grants.
yeah,
because of the-
Blanco
you know.
had, simply had, along the river, you parked the barge, and you would load, there was no port cut into the,
Right.
into the riverbank. You know, other ones I've worked on, there was a port cut in, which is a whole nother can of worms in terms of debris and silt and all of that, that occurs along the river as the water swirls around the entrance to that. But that was a very, you know, much like maybe GPC and Cargill already have here.
Yeah,
They've already
they're-
got barge loadouts.
Yeah, so yeah, those are considered terminals, and I think, and I sent an email, I think you guys got, where Sinclair listed all these terminals and the size and what they are doing, so there are a number of terminals, we have a couple in Muscatine County, 2 or 3, and there's some in Scott, and I think that's those terminal operators would be eligible to look for funding, as well. And under this port authority, so I think, you know, I can only see positives coming out of it at this point, so.
Well, if the physical port ever does happen, and that's something we want here in Muscatine, I'm not saying we do or we don't. If we let another county take the charge, do we risk losing the edge on that happening here?
I don't really think so, I think,
The board would have to decide it, and the board's gonna be comprised of a representative from each of the counties, so, I mean, there'd be a say in it. I'm not gonna tell you what the board would do. Obviously, the board may have choices. And,
Okay.
you know, I just didn't want you to, I didn't want to let it linger if anybody was waiting on me
Okay.
to do something. The other thing I had, just to FYI, Ryan and I last week, got another road use agreement put together for, Legacy, down on the island for the levee improvement. This would be the portion that's gonna cross Pettibone. They did secure the private land access to allow them to come out of Deep Lakes Park, across the road and down private land to avoid using, I don't know how much land, how far it is down Pettibone and 41st, but so they would stay off of that and just do one point that they could control and then have to repair when we were done. If
originally they were gonna come down to Pettibone and come Pettibone to Maple Grove and down,
Grove and then also down to Wiggins.
and then down to Wiggins, both directions.
Yes, they were
So
gonna-
now they're just gonna come over there across the road and basically right there?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so that should make a pretty significant impact on the traffic.
Yeah, and I want to let you know that we had made that, in case you hear anything.
Will they put traffic controls in there, or is that?
I think Brian's had
addressed?
some recommendations.
Yeah, I haven't heard which route they're gonna go, but the DOT has a standard traffic control for this situation. It'll either be a stoplight or it'll be, actual flaggers down there stopping traffic when the trucks go.
Are they gonna do some kind of a structure over the road, or are they just coming over it, or how do they protect the roadway?
We kinda left that up to them, just to keep the liability on them, but, we did make them build an entrance that was straight across from the entrance on the east side of River Trading that they intend to use. I believe right now their current plan is to put thick, like half-inch thick, or all the way up to an inch thick steel plates over the road, and then they'll, asphalt the very edges of that so that they don't move around. And then they'll be there 24/7 until the project's over.
Yeah, cause you know, we've had a number of people complain on that 51, or Pettibone because of the industrial traffic, and again, you know, anybody traveling that just cautioned that there's a lot of industrial traffic down there, and, they have a right to the roadway as well, so.
It'll certainly be busy. I mean, I think they were talking about using 10, I think it was, maybe not 10 haul trucks, but I think like half a dozen haul trucks. I mean, it'll be pretty busy still, but, you know, it will just be really localized to that one crossing, so.
And they'll haul 24 hours a day, is that the plan?
No,
Okay.
no, I think they were just gonna do just during daylight.
Daylight, yeah, it's always safer.
And the only other issues then, I think from our perspective, would be if any repairs are necessary in the future, and then, of course, if there's any deduct or credit on the existing contract because they're not using as much of the roadway as they had planned to potentially have to repair. So we'll have to sort out those details with Klinger as well, but those are the two issues that are sort of, and I don't know how close they are, Brian, on the feature two phase of it at this point, but they've gotta be getting relatively close.
Feature two is
The haul down to the overflow.
I believe they're done hauling material down there.
I don't know if you checked the road or.
And they're, and the road, our road looks fairly decent. We haven't walked down it, but I've driven down it a couple times a week. It looks pretty good. But, I think they were getting fairly close to wanting to start the phase up here, feature one. But I think the cutoff for their flood plan was 21 feet. So they're kinda at standstill until the river goes down.
Yeah. So where do we, well, I don't know what the latest projections are, somewhere around 22, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was like 21.
21.8 or something like that? 21.5?
So other than that, we did have that hearing last week for the lawsuit we filed for the dogs, cats, birds, bunnies, turtles, snake, all the things that you had authorized a couple of weeks ago for me to pursue. We were able to settle that, take custody of all of those animals, keep custody of all of those animals. So this one is probably it's the biggest one I've done since I've been here. There's a lot of related costs to it. We've already got a budget and plan in place internally to work with that. But I just wanted to let you know that did come to fruition. We were able to get it resolved last Wednesday signed by the owner of the animals signing off and giving up rights to all of them. So just so you know.
In regards to Port, Jeff, did you mention we need to put it on an action item?
Yeah,
moving
we
forward?
put it on an action
I don't
item
know if you did that, but.
For the,
for the port.
yeah, yep.
Yep. Okay, any other county employees wishing to address the board? Okay, how about receiving comments from the public? Any members of the public wishing to address the board on an issue? Okay. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into a non-public session pursuant to chapter 20.17.3 Code of Iowa to discuss strategy and union negotiations. We'll take a brief recess. It's 9:44. We'll come back at what do you need, 9 minutes?
Just a couple minutes.
9:49. How's that?